What's the guarantee? Eric?
Mike, time to make history. Players in Circa Million make 5 picks against the spread each week with quarterly and full season payouts.
Circa Survivor entries choose one team each week with no point spread. The last one standing wins it all.
We have $21 million on the line. Are you in? Visit circasports.com for details.
This fall, the Sandman, Adam Sandler, You're My Best Friend Tour.
I feel like we're very good friends now.
Casey Center, Saturday, October 4th. Get tickets now at HiVTix.com.
Chad Leistikow, Scott Dochterman, the two biggest Hawkeye and Big Ten beat writers, together on one show. GameDay Men's Health proudly presents Legends and Listeners. Best enjoyed with an easy Eddie from Big Grove Brewery. This is Legends and Listeners, exclusively on Iowa Everywhere.
Hey, Hawkeye fans, Big Ten. I love the music. Hawkeye fans, Big Ten fans, Iowans everywhere. It is episode 107 of Legends and Listeners, and it's week 0 for the 2025 college football season. The Iowa Hawkeyes not playing this weekend. Iowa State Cyclones are one of Iowa's early opponents. We might talk about that a little bit later in the show. Chad Leistikow here of the Des Moines Register. That's Scott Dochterman of The Athletic with the football over there. We're in the Channel Seed Studios here on Iowa Everywhere, and glad to be together, Scott. This show hitting people 9 days out from Iowa's season, 2 days out from the start of the actual college football season. I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now we've kind of reached that moment where I'm ready. I think on Monday of this week, I reached that point of, all right, let's roll. And maybe it is week 0, and maybe it is the fact that it's Iowa State and Kansas State. It's a rivalry game, and it's two ranked opponents. One that people know intimately in the state. Either you love them or you don't. And I think that I mean, it's going to be a real impactful game. So I think everybody should be excited now for the start of the season.
Yeah, I was going to talk about it later. We might as well talk about it now. Like, what should Iowa State, Kansas State? That's 11 a.m. on ESPN, correct?
Yes.
Iowa time. So you can tune in then. You can get a glimpse at Iowa's Week 2 opponent. Just a monster game on Iowa's schedule. If you want them to have a special season, which we're going to talk about next, what do you want to see if you're a Hawkeye fan? What are you looking for here from the Cyclones? Do you want them to win? Do you increase the significance of the game, potential quality win, potential quality loss, or do you want them to lose? Do you want them to look bad? I don't know. Just give me your assessment on the whole deal.
I think in this situation, you can be agnostic, which means if you're an Iowa fan, you can root against the team you don't like and be okay, because Kansas State is a pretty good team. I mean, if this was a different team, if this was Cincinnati or UCF, you'd be like, yeah, you don't really want them losing to a team that's probably not going to go to a bowl game. But Kansas State might be the best team in the Big 12. So might Iowa State. So I think you could be like, okay, I hate Iowa State. I'm going to pick against them. Or you could be like, I always call it, the Iowa State rivalry, my mother-in-law rivalry, because my mother-in-law, has 6 kids, and 3 went to Iowa State, 2 went to Iowa, 1 went to UNI, or 2 went to UNI after Iowa. And so it was like, like my mother-in-law loves all of them. They're all like, oh, I like both teams. I don't want to root for them either to lose. Well, you can do that too. But really what you want to see out of this game, Chad, is Iowa State last year, terrific quarterback, unreal receivers, pretty good running game. Defense was very suspect. You want to see have they improved in their run defense, because they gave up 200 plus rushing yards, I think, in 5 games last year, and it really showed against Iowa, of course, but Arizona State ate them alive. A few other teams really ran it on them. And so you want to see if that's been improved. I think with Dominic Orange, he's one of the best defensive tackles in the country that they have. He's the one who smoked Iowa when it was 1st and goal at the 1, and they tried to do a wham block with, Johnny Pascuzzi, who was going in motion there. So you want to see that. I think they're very much improved at linebacker. I think they'll be better there. But I do think you want to see how do they handle Avery Johnson, Kansas State's quarterback, who's also a very talented young quarterback and now kind of getting his bearings as a second-year starter. And you also want to see how their run defense handles the Wildcats. To me, this is a game that's probably going to be a field goal game one way or the other.
Yeah, I believe K-State's favored by 3.5 going into this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Aiden, but should be a really fun game to watch and just to see where the Cyclones are. I happen to think that it helps Iowa just to have them have good film against a good opponent. You know, you're going to get a much better look at them this week than you would a normal week one type opponent. So, and then on the flip side, Iowa probably can keep everything pretty close to the vest week one against UAlbany. So I think it's a benefit for Iowa that they play early, have to come back from Europe potentially, but it could benefit Iowa State. You don't have 2 games under its belt. You know, you just never know how it's going to play out. But my thinking is more film, the better, especially with a new team. See how they're going to play. So, you know, Kansas State, somewhat built like Iowa. I mean, in a way. So you're going to get to see some looks that you're probably going to see. September 6th in Ames. So I'm looking forward to watching the game. Obviously, myself. I think it'll be a great game.
Yeah, I do. I think what everybody's going to want to see out of Iowa State is going to be the changes at receiver. Losing Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins those are 2 sizable losses. Those are losses like Caleb Johnson. Maybe you can replace that kind of production. You're not going to replace that kind of ability right away. And, I think that's probably what everybody's going to see. One thing with Iowa State, and I think they're going, if they haven't already, I think they're going to question the way that they structured the season, which was they're coming right back from this game, and then they've got a game coming up. Well, South Dakota is not your tip. It's from the Dakotas, so you gotta understand what you're getting. I mean, this was a team that was one of the 4 highest seeds in the FCS last year, and it's an opponent that if Iowa State plays well, Iowa State should win. But if you get banged up, things happen in that game, and then you come back and you're not ready, you could lose that game, or you could play really poorly and have it come down to the wire. So I think it's a kind of a dangerous game. Whereas Iowa, in 9 days, plays Albany, who's 4-8, has an interim head coach. Now he's been an interim for 6 months, but still, he's still an interim head coach. And that's one where, depending on when Kirk wants to call off the dogs, that's how that one's going to lay out. And so they could really, as you said, hold everything close to the vest, go as vanilla as possible, even more vanilla than Kids Day, which was
I don't know if that's possible, but
no motion, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that Iowa State will be guessing a little bit more versus that they're going to have to go all out in game 1 and maybe even in game 2. In game 2, they could win, and they may blow them out, but South Dakota's not one of those typical FCS teams. They just chalk it up as a win.
Okay. And the reason we're talking about Iowa State here, Scott, off the top is because it's such a big game week 2 for the Hawkeyes, and there's more national momentum towards the Hawkeyes season. Obviously, the win total is still over under 7.5 with plus money on the over, so you can put down $100 and make about 120 if Iowa just goes 8-4 this year. And I picked them 10-2. Got mocked for that by quite a few people. You picked Iowa to go 10-2, but now we have Stuart Mandel of The Athletic posting in Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, right? Tuesday morning. His projections for the Big Ten, and lo and behold, I opened the file, and there's Iowa in 3rd place in the Big Ten in Stewart's projections. National writer for national publication, has Iowa going 10-2, has them finish in 3rd place in the Big Ten, even higher than I had them finishing, which was 4th. So that caught my eye a little bit, Scott, and I'm just wondering your thoughts on that. I know you know Stewart pretty well, and I know he did that completely independently of you, and so I'm just curious what you make of that, because I feel like, when people see us say 10-2, it's like, well, they're just homers or whatever, and blah blah blah. I definitely got plenty of that. But I try to be really careful with these picks, and I feel like I've sensed a lot of momentum on the offensive side that the national media hasn't sensed, and I wonder if that's where Stewart's coming from here.
Yeah, with Stu, we do bowl projections, and they're coming out on Friday, and they're pretty holistic. They're based on how he goes about picking each team in its conference and their final records, and that he selects the field, and then I kind of select the bowl games around that. And early on he asked me about Iowa. He's like, kind of like, am I crazy to think that Iowa might be a playoff team? And I'm like, no, you're actually not. And here's why. I mean, you look at what they did last year. I mean, they averaged 27.5, almost 28 points a game. And this was without a passing game. Now, Mark Gronowski, he was a little bit off, I would say, early in camp, and certainly was in Kids Day. I think he's still catching up to the speed of the game a little bit. And that's because he didn't have spring. That's because he's still working through it. I think that'll work his way out. Iowa has a tremendously difficult schedule. I mean, I've looked at it, and I'm writing a schedule story on the Big Ten, who has the most challenging one. And Iowa is probably right at about number 2, maybe number 3. But Wisconsin's number 1. There's no close to that. But I think in this case, you look at Iowa, and like when we did our kind of big predictions for the Athletic the other day, there were 4 of us that picked Iowa to go to the playoffs. And
out of how many? 4 out of how many?
28.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're 1/7. I mean, whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's still.
It's more than 1 out of 28.
Yeah, it's more than just, he covered Iowa, he picked Iowa, that type of thing. No, I mean, there are 4 people, and now, somebody's going to be wrong, somebody's going to be right. It could be Nebraska, it could be Iowa, it could be whatever. But I think what people are seeing and understanding is that, if their defense is comparable to what they've had before, and their quarterback is good, and they can still run the football, they're going to be in every game because they're always in every game. And then what can they do beyond that? And when you do look at this schedule, Chad, when you do see that there are 4 teams that won at least 11 games last year, when you see that, the average, like Chris Vanini, who I work with, he does a 136, which is ranking all the teams in Division I or FBS. And Iowa's schedule, the average rank of its Big Ten opponents is 37. That's pretty high. I mean, it was one of the highest in the Big Ten, and they have 7 teams in his top 50. And that doesn't include like Michigan State, which is like 55. So, I mean, I think people are looking at Iowa as a potential. They've got the tough teams at home. They've got a good quarterback who's experienced. They always tend to have a decent defense. They should have a good running game with a good offensive line. And they're competitive with teams. So somebody's going to break through. No, I'm not saying there's going to be another Indiana. That'll never happen again. But I think that somebody's going to get in that we don't expect. And Iowa, like Antonio Morales, one of my other colleagues wrote, if you're going to be on the bandwagon, they're one of the bandwagon teams to get on.
That's interesting, for sure. And, I just wonder, it's still the love is still coming from small pockets, I would say, of the country, but it's not just local. Where we're, I really think like locally we can sense the momentum offensively. I mean, you can see just how drastically different it is from 2023, and it should be. I mean, with the way the passing game is clicking with the receivers have taken steps. You can just see you can see a scenario in which this is a pretty fun offense to watch. And I happen to think that, and maybe we've talked about this before on the show, but like if Iowa has any kind of like offense that's somewhat entertaining, like that's going to help them in the playoff push too, because it's going to be a team that people want to see or curious to see maybe in the playoffs. Whereas, 2023, we didn't even want to see that team. Right. It was hard to watch for us, and we covered the team, winning 10-7 and all that. But it's interesting. I just wonder how. I don't think what do you think about the expectation? I mean, the expectations are growing, I would say. Like within the Iowa fan base, for sure, they have grown. And I think it's because of, people hear the momentum in Leicester's. I mean, it's understandable. I mean, we cover the team and we're pretty bullish on the team, and it could blow up in our face, no question about it. It's a really tough schedule. We've said it time and time again. They could go 7-5 and have a pretty good team, a really good team. And you could still go 7-5. I mean, not one road game is a gimme. And then you've got 5 tough home games. Absolutely. I mean, 100%, 5 tough home games. None of those are going to be easy. There's 2 easy ones. That's it. So, do you think the expectations are getting a little bit too high is all I'm saying?
Maybe, we could have been in that ballpark on that. I think that this is a really good team. We'll start with that. I think Iowa is a really good team with a really challenging schedule. I threw out the phrase and somehow got twisted in what I said about 2009 comparison. And my 2009 comparison was that every game was like down to the wire, and they had a really good team that found a way to, in a very tough schedule. And their schedule was tough because they had 4 opponents that played, in regular season that won 10 games. Was they found a way to win every single game. And then the next year, which they might have been a little more talented in 2010, their depth got depleted. They got a lot of injuries, and then they went to 7-5. But that team, if you line it up against a lot of others, would have won. It just lost a lot of close games. And I think it's got potential to go either way, Chad. And it's going to be about, at Ames, can your quarterback lead you to victory? Because it's going to be a tough game. Now, they haven't won there. Iowa State hasn't beaten Iowa and Ames since 2011. They want to win the worst way. That they're committed to this. And, they've already, I've had conversations with people up there, it's like, it's crazy that they're playing our 2 biggest rivals in our first 3 games. And, at least the third one's at home, but you've got that. You've got Indiana. Who would have thought a year ago at this time, Indiana would be what it is, but you've got them. Wisconsin, in the offseason, they used you as the example to get in better shape, to go get 7 more guys who weigh 300 pounds on your defensive line because they got, annihilated by Zamboni last year in Kinnick Stadium. You look at Minnesota, won the last time in Kinnick. There's all these games, but when you take them, if you take them, holistically, it's hard to find this magic formula to get to 10-2. I think 10-2 gets them to the playoff. However, you take them individually. You go 4-0, you win at Rutgers on that Friday night, then Indiana, win by a point, who cares? Week off, get ready for Wisconsin. You go up there, you're going to get their best shot. It's going to be physical, but you're a better team than they are. You win. Penn State at home, they might get the number 1 team in the country. Mm-hmm. And, because they're going to be, they beat Oregon, you never know. And, but coming into Kinnick, we know what those games are like. It's a steel cage match. And even if you lose, it's not the end of the world now. With the 12-team playoff in your schedule. Minnesota at home, I think they're going to be amped to beat Minnesota at home. Then another week off. Oregon at home. Is this the Oregon? How's Dante Moore going to be?
Yeah.
Really good team. USC on the road. That's the team that scares me the most, honestly, out of this. Because that team, you want to look at close games last year. I mean, they lost, by 3 points to Penn State in overtime. They lost by 3 points on the road at Michigan, and kind of a miracle comeback from Michigan. They had 2 pick sixes they threw in the fourth quarter against Notre Dame. And they have a lot of talent, as we know. And you're out there, and Iowa doesn't do well on the West Coast. So in some ways, if you're chalking up the WL column, that's one that you're going, okay, now you have to make up for it somewhere else.
Right.
And, and that could be Oregon, that could be Penn State, that could be, 2 out of 3 between the 3 playoff teams you play at home. And then Nebraska, they've already won the offseason. Let's see if they win the regular season. So
exactly. Yeah. It's it'll be fun. We get to find out for sure. As the games get going here, it always goes so fast, right? Scott, we build it up for so long, 8 months basically, of constant coverage, from portal to roster building and spring and fall camp, all this stuff. And it just goes so fast. I hate that. I hate that about college football because that's my favorite thing to cover. But
it is.
But it should be fun. I'm just stoked for this time of year, for sure. And I do think to finish our point on just what makes Iowa kind of this team that's to watch is I think it is the consistency in this NIL era. That's what I think, to me, also gives Iowa a huge leg up. I mean, you watch the Big Ten Network special on Iowa, and Revson, DiNardo, Jake Butt, they're all talking about it's the same practice every year, the same coaches every year. And so on the outside, you see oh God, they lost 8 starters on defense. On the inside, where, we're as close as we can probably get to the inside, we know Cohen Entringer was probably better than almost anybody that was on the field last year. Zach Lutmer, I would concur, same thing. We know Bryce Hawthorne has been a huge addition in the portal that nobody really knows about yet. There's a lot of confidence, I think, in the unknowns for us that we're pretty sure about. I feel pretty confident about it, but I'm still uncertain. My 2 biggest question marks, probably on the whole team, outside of how good Gronowski is, linebacker and that second cornerback spot, because you could really get burned if you're not solid in those positions. So that's still where my hesitation is on this 10-2. But everyone seems, has in Phil Parker we trust, and I get that, but I still want to see that. That's where I'm a little unsettled in my mind.
Right on. And I think that everybody should have that caution when it comes to this schedule. You should have that cautious optimism. This team is better than what it was last year at this time, but the flip side is the schedule is very challenging. And I've pointed several times to that Indiana game. And to your point, that scares me about corner. It scares me about linebacker, because their play design was outstanding. I mean, they are, and now with Fernando Mendoza, who's a little bit better quarterback than Curtis Rourke. Elijah Surratt is outside of Jeremiah Smith, who's, out of this world. He's the best receiver in the Big Ten, and he is really good. And how they're going to attack and what they're going to attack. And they're going to attack your zone, and they're going to attack, location and person. And if you don't have the guys to cover, you're going to give up a lot of points. You're going to give up a lot of yards first, and then you're going to give up a lot of points second. And that means that puts a lot of pressure on your offense to keep up, which I think they're more capable in doing that. But can they continue to do that for 4 quarters? Can they get up above 30 against a legitimate good team? I don't know. And so I think that's a fear. I think left tackle's a fear of mine. I think they can mask it. We won't really notice it early. I mean, Albany won't notice it at all. And same thing with UMass. I mean, they're just going to go out and run them over. Iowa State, I'm anxious to see how they kind of mask that. Rutgers is a good team, but their defense wasn't very good last year. They've got a really tough schedule too, and they may be a decent team and not go to a bowl. But that's a team Iowa should beat. But if you're going to see Mikel Kamara, he's one of the best pass rushers in the country. And, he's going to come their weak spot. They're going to attack weak spots. They do a great job of that. And Iowa has to be shored up. That's game 5. Get ready by game 5 at all those positions. But there's a lot of positivity too. But this is why you should have some anxiety, because it's not going to be a sane ride this year.
Yeah, like I feel like past years you could really count on. Hey, that's probably going to. You could probably count on like 6 wins. Pretty sure. Yeah. And maybe like 2 or 3 losses, pretty sure. But this year, it's like 2-0, and then I have no real idea. But I just feel good about this team, and I think we're on the same page. And that was
if they played Purdue and Northwestern and Maryland,
right? Exactly.
Instead of USC, Oregon, and this version of Indiana. I mean, like Purdue might be the worst team in Big Ten, other than maybe Rutgers about 5 years ago. And it's not really. They lost 65 guys in the portal. They only have one starter coming back from a team that won 1 game, and that was the opener against Eastern Illinois or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't get rival Purdue this year, so that's too bad. Wanted to talk about the Big Ten a little bit if you feel like you're good. Oh, by the way, that is one reason Indiana is one of the 2 losses I picked. So I feel like this is a team that is going to get better as the season goes on for the reasons you just stated. They're going to figure that left tackle out as they go. They're going to figure linebacker out as they go. I'm actually writing a column on linebackers as we speak. And they just got a lot of young talent that just needs a little more time. I know we've talked about this in the show. They just need a little more time. And we'll just see how Harrell and Shire do. Can they stay healthy too? That's another big piece to this whole thing is his health. And it's something I'm putting in my column. It's the last 4 years they haven't had a linebacker miss a start. The inside linebackers haven't missed a start. Campbell and Benson went 27. Higgins and Jackson went 27. all in a row.
Wow.
And so, that's you got a half of Jaden Harrell last year at USCLA, and it was exposed. So are they going to be good first, and then are they going to stay healthy second? So it'll be interesting to see.
It's interesting because talking to Seth about Jaden Harrell, when he came in for Higgins, when he had his hand, he was put at a disadvantage that Seth recognizes, and he recognizes, and when I talked to Jaden too, is that Iowa sets its defense to the field, which is the wide side of the field. In his case, they were right in the middle of the field. So he struggled to figure it out, and then they got gouged right away. And that kind of spilled over, and he didn't play really well, and that part of it was that. But I also look back and nobody should feel sorry for him or anything, because like the Iowa State game last year, Iowa State was so depleted at linebacker. I mean, they were like throwing, whether it's true freshmen and walk-ons on that position. I thought, oh my gosh, there's no way they can handle Iowa. It was running game. They couldn't, but they, handled a quarterback who could throw the ball, like this, it'd be like this actually. But this is, but anyway, I think that's something with Iowa that you're going to have to survive it. And I am interested when we get to the first depth chart to see who's, I expect the 3 seniors to be at the top line, but who's backing them up? That's where I'm really kind of fascinated. I mean, is Buffington middle? Is Reese weak side? Or is it, Van Kekerix? Or, or are they going to have oars just to make sure they placate the moms and dads? I don't know.
But yeah, I think from talking to Seth at Media Day, by the way, I did talk to Harrell about that UCLA game, and he said he was just like a step slow, basically. He knew where he needed to be. He was just a step slow. And so, there were regrets from that game. That was a tough loss for the Hawkeyes. And then, Higgins came back the next week at Maryland somehow.
Yeah. They had a week off, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah, they had the bye week, and then that's right, 14 days. And it was a Friday game in UCLA. So anyway, he didn't miss a start with that hamstring injury. But anyway, what was I saying? Seth said Jaden Montgomery is like the backup middle. So if Harrell got hurt, they would keep Shire at, this is what he said on Media Day, so who knows? It could have changed by now. They would keep Montgomery at middle or keep Shire at weak and move Montgomery to the middle. Van Kekerix, he can play weak or outside really well. I feel like he's probably their 5th guy right now. And then then you got Nolan DeLong, Cam Buffington, Derek Weiskopf. Weiskopf's been playing weak and outside. So is Reese. And then Buffington is basically Jack Campbell. He's basically Jack Campbell coming up the pipe. 6'3", 239, big guy. He's just learning the middle right now. I mean, maybe they're flipping him to other spots, but still, he's their middle linebacker of the future. So to me, you get those guys, and I don't know how we got in this linebackers talk, but you just get those 3 freshmen as many special teams reps as you can this year. If things are really going sour, maybe you start rotating them in after Indiana. But this, the runway is there for them to be in the mix for 3 years starting in 2026. So, and then they got Burt Goucher and Carson Cooney right there too. And those guys are uber talented, as you've said. So the linebacker room's in good shape. You just don't know much about it right now because there's one half of real game experience in that whole group coming into this year.
And they've got a couple of really good ones that they have commits too, Julian Manson and Kason Thomas. I think they're both outstanding young players when they arrive. So, I mean, just about every commit is going to roll early. I think there's only like 2 or 3 who aren't. So, I mean, the linebacking core is like, man, you're going to have to figure something out because you went to this 4-2-5, but you got too many good linebackers. You keep stocking that up. It's like, hey, Seth, I'm going to farm this out or transition somebody over to edge and play that a little bit different.
That's what I wonder. Like a Weiskopf, could he go to edge at some point? Something like that. We'll see. Yeah. But you'd love to have Buffington Weiskopf inside for 3 years. But
of course, Reese and the way he can, the strength and stuff. You don't want to mess around with that either.
Yeah, he's a little smaller, so maybe he could be outside, but we'll see. That's going to be fun to watch.
He's a Josie Jewell type. I really, in meeting him, he's got the same demeanor. So very intense.
So the depth chart does come out Monday. Finally, haven't had one since the spring. There's no summer depth chart for the first time under Ferentz. What are you maybe what one or two spots are you most curious to see what they do with as far as listing? We know the Ferentz will say on Tuesday the depth chart doesn't mean anything. Oh, they put that out. I haven't even seen it yet. It'll be, but it will mean something. Clearly, if they've waited this long, it's a week one depth chart's going to be about as accurate as we can probably get, assuming there's, not some injury, whatever's on there,
Yeah.
Is Kamari Moulton on first line, since he's been hurt, whatever, stuff like that. Yeah. They'll probably list him. We'll have to find out what his health is. But anyway, what things are you looking for the most on Monday when that depth chart comes out?
Yeah. Left tackle. I mean, I want to see, since we last saw them, there have been a lot of practices. Is Trevor Lauk, they've been alternating him and Jack Dotzler. Did Bryce George catch up? Is one of those three guys, and who's going to end up on line number one? Is it going to be an or? It might be an or. I mean, that's probably, my guess is playing Albany, they're going to rotate all of them at that position just to kind of get a feel, get film on them against another opponent and see, because week 2, and I talked to George about this on Kids Day just on the side, and it's kind of like weeks 1 and 3 is, presuming that they win and whatever, but weeks 1 and 3 are kind of figure things out and look at different matchups. Week 2 is, win the game, get the best players out there, and so I think that is my number one I want to see is left tackle, because and to your point, Kirk kind of poo-poos the depth chart, and he's right about some things, like say your right guard might be your number 2 left tackle or right tackle or something, and so somebody has to leave, he might kick outside, and then you bring somebody else in, as opposed to just the second team right tackle is Cannon Leonard. No, it's actually more him, but that's my number one. What about you, Chad?
Yeah, I'm definitely with you there. I'm very curious at receiver because there's 8 guys there. I think Seth Anderson will be on the one line. I think Jacob Gill. I think Reese Vanderzee probably. But who else are you listing? KJ Parker. Where's Caden Weechin fit in? Dayton Howard had a good Kids Day. There's a lot of guys there to kind of sort through. And then, you mentioned it already. Cornerback 2 is a big one. You think it's probably Deshaun Lee, just based on seniority, but like you said about left tackle, they've had a lot of practices, to sift through. So what do we see on the depth chart, because Phil Parker, he will make a change if there's,
he will,
and they won't be afraid to put someone out there. I mean, it's Albany. You don't have to play games with it. Just put your best guy on the top of the depth chart on Monday, and that's your starting lineup. I mean, maybe it's Jalen Watson. He wasn't healthy, but I know he's coming on. Where's Shaheed Barros? I mean, where is Rashad Godfrey? He was out with the ones when we saw Kids Day. So really, any one of 4 guys could be on that cornerback 2 line, and we need to make sure TJ Hall is healthy, of course, too. You don't know that for sure. And then also running back, does Nathan McNeil make an appearance? He sure has made an appearance, in videos and made an impression to us on Kids Day. And that's a true freshman that's really interesting to me. He really looks good. And I saw Hawkeye Game Film tweeted out something about his huddle video, and so I went ahead and watched it. It's like 9 minutes. Man, that guy, it's amazing that he got recruited by Arkansas State and who was it? Idaho or something? I don't know. It was basically 2 schools of no name, no consequence. And Iowa comes in, and Liddell Betts is like, "What? Am I wrong? What am I like? This guy's really good, right?" And then they end up offering, and he comes here in January and sets the 10-yard dash record. So that guy is really intriguing to me too.
Well, immediately when you see that number 25, it catches your eye, because you start to remember, Akram Wadley. And, it's hard to get that kind of quickness that Akram had. I think that was pretty rare, but he's making moves like that. And to see the way he has great feel, in the zone and kind of knows where to go and flow. And it's like, after a while you're watching him and it's kind of this natural, we do this, everybody does this, is you kind of have this pecking order in mind of how things are going. Well, you got TJ Washington, he's back, and you've got Kamari Moulton, it's his turn, and Jazz Patterson's the loyal soldier, and he's pretty good too. But if Nathan McNeil's the best running back, he's going to play, and he should play, because he gives them the best chance to win. As we said, with a schedule like this, you want the best players out there, and they have played true freshmen, and true freshmen have pplayed well.
Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson played as a true freshman.
He had a 200-yard game as a true freshman. You had, on and on. We've had true freshmen at Iowa that have, had outstanding seasons. Marcus Coker had a really good season when he broke his collarbone in camp and then eventually became the starter after they had a bunch of injuries. And Jewel Hampton was really good, had 8 touchdowns or something like that. Brandon Weger, hopefully he ends up with a better career than those 3.
Ominous picks there, Scott. Jeez.
But let's stick to Caleb Johnson, because I was going to also mention Mikael McCall, and that did he make halfway through the season. He played a lot in his first game. But he's looked great. Both in person and on video. I don't know. If he's that good, Chad, it changes the room dramatically, because I think the other ones... I think Moulton, we looked like, the odds are that he's going to be the Big Ten rushing champ. Yeah. That's the odds. But if Nathan McNeil's better, throw him out there. There's no reason not to.
Yeah. It'll be fun to see as many, how many guys they play in that first game and all that. But we'll preview UAlbany game next week a little bit. But speaking of momentum, somebody having, the place having momentum, Game Day Men's Health. I went in for my shot on Wednesday, and my God, I tried to beat the rush kind of, and it was just like packed. And like, some of the ladies hadn't even shown up yet, so like we were all trying to jockey for position. The place is bustling. It's doing great. We're really glad to see that a lot of you men out there are getting back in the game with Game Day Men's Health. Testosterone replacement therapy is such a positive thing for your mood, your athleticism, your life. It just makes you feel good, and like they say, it makes you feel like you're in your 20s again. Man, my Wednesday was just so good. I just had really just an upbeat Wednesday, and I don't know. I give credit in part to Game Day Men's Health for sure. And it's never too late. You can get started anytime with a free private, no obligation consultation at GameDayMen'sHealth.com, or visit one of their front desks in Ankeny, West Des Moines, where I go, or North Liberty, where Scott goes. So it's been, I'm excited they're partnering with us. They're the presenting sponsor for Legends and Listeners. We really, really appreciate them. And I do know, Scott, that they appreciate us as well for spreading the word. And obviously, all the feedback I've really gotten from people is so positive. So, and I have friends ask me, does that really work? Are you just saying that? And like, no, I'm not just saying that. It really has been a blessing in my life. So we appreciate Game Day very much. And I know a lot of you do too.
If you can see a before and after picture of me, before this and after this, I've lost 20% of my body weight. And a large part of this was Game Day Men's Health, because now I'm working out and I feel good working out, and I have more energy working out. And
that's the thing.
I'm not hitting necessarily my PRs from like my 20s or teens, but I'm getting closer. And, I can, and the best part is, Chad, it's only a couple blocks from my house, which is great, but it only takes about 5 minutes of your morning or your afternoon. You pop in, you pop out. They're not going to keep you. They're not going to make you sit in the waiting room for half an hour. It's like I'm 8 o'clock on Monday morning. I walk in. All right, room 2, and it's, and so I'm, either Alicia or Stacy is in there, and then all of a sudden pop. All right, see you later. And, and then I'm off. And it really kind of gets you going, and not only just for that day, but all week, because it just sustains you. So it's something that I recommend, when you're old dudes like us in our 50s, it's something that really gets us, keeps us motivated. And then the best part for me is, Chad, when you start to see the results and you look at the scale and you see, hey, I can see a vein that I didn't have, because I'm lifting more and stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is working. And then it kind of keeps you motivated. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy sort of with how you work out. So
Exactly.
I can't give it enough thumbs up.
Yeah, amen. And not saying you're going to PR like your 20s, but you can feel like you're in your 20s.
Yeah,
okay,
right,
So,
yeah.
but don't go out and pull a hammy. You still got to stretch. Okay.
Yeah.
We got to. I can. I can tell we're running long, but that's okay. We want to get to one of our favorite segments of the off season, which is Hawkeyes in the NFL. But first, I want to hit on a couple little things, Scott. 28-team playoff proposed by the Big Ten, or 24? Like, what's the deal? What's going on there? Is that something that we need to take seriously, Mr. Petiti?
It's odd timing, no question. It's like, dudes, are you really? It looks like all the momentum is against you for a 16-team automatic bid, and now you're going to try to, let's go 24, let's go 28. What's next? 56. I think in this situation, it's a talking point. It's a discussion. It's not really serious. It's an idea, but it also has people interested beyond the Big Ten. And a lot of it is that, okay, now it becomes more of an inclusive tournament. And because there's always a fear that it's going to be, if you're in the Big 12, I don't know why you wouldn't latch on, first of all, to the guarantees that Big Ten has proposed. Second of all, something like this, because they're going to be lucky most years. I think they're going to have, like, over a 5-year period, they're going to be lucky to get more than 5 teams. But 24 playoff, this is one that it's funny. I dug it out when I was at the Gazette. I actually wrote in 2006 my idea for a 24-team playoff. 4 divisions of 6 teams, 2 byes, everything until the semifinals played on campus. It's what FCS does. It's not a bad idea. It's just right now at this time getting, it's not even really a proposal. It's just a discussion, but it just seems like, oh, are you kidding me, man? But I think it's something that will probably get discussed, but I think it's probably more in the neighborhood of 2031 or 2032 as opposed to 2026.
Well, a 24, it sounds ridiculous to me, but a 24 would feel more possible every year, or many years. Every year will be, first of all, it would take the bowl stuff out of I do like that part. Mm-hmm. Like opting out of bowls, all that stuff. You probably wouldn't opt out of a playoff game. Most people wouldn't,
If you do, you should have your heart questioned.
Yeah, it's like it would. 24 feels like an NCAA tournament field proportionally, maybe to basketball. I haven't thought that through, but like 24 out of 136, 68 out of 360, or you know what I mean. It's probably about 1/5, one-ish of the Division 1 in basketball, FBS and football. So it would still mean something. Like 24 wouldn't be easy, but it would be like, I would say more years than not, I bet Iowa would have made it. Maybe. I don't know. At least been in the mix for sure going into the final weeks. 100%, which that's what you want. You want your season to mean something. And I just feel like the bowl games are just getting, and 24 does sound silly in a lot of ways, but the way you phrase it, 2 6-team divisions, 2 byes. Yeah, it's not, you get a reward if you're a good team, a top 8 team. So, I'm not totally against it, but I agree the timing is very strange. I just feel like Petiti is just sort of, I don't know. He's just not, Sankey's just on a different level in terms of PR. They hit home runs, and Petiti's sort of, lucky to just walk, Yeah, which is that analogy is hilarious because he was actually the deputy commissioner of Major League Baseball, and he played baseball in college and absolutely loves baseball. So the analogy is hilarious, but he, it's funny because a couple months ago I was at Nicole Auerbach's wedding reception, and I was with her and Beth Getz, and Nicole's like, "What's your preferred one?" And I said, "Actually, it's 24 teams. That is what I would prefer, but I also acknowledge that it's maybe not quite ready yet." The bowl games part of it, Chad, you're right. At this point, I think interest has waned on them. I'm not saying that they should be just punted down the road completely, because I think there's some merit to certainly the G5s and those teams, but also to 7-5 team or 6-6 team. That's like, hey, we just want to
have a chance to play another game. But what used to be, before playoffs, it used to be about a great trip. Oh yeah, we're gonna go to Tampa for the 8th time or whatever. For the players, it's like, oh, I get this $500 gift card from whatever shop, and I can go in there and pay. But now they're getting paid. Some of them $1 million. A lot of them 6 figures. It's like, do you really care about a $500 gift card to Best Buy while you're at the, whocaresbowl.com? It's just I can see that is, and the flip side, I've got this huge series that comes out probably early next week on money in sports. And among those is like the Big Ten and other leagues are starting to wonder, not as much about bowls, but certainly MTEs and basketball. Mm-hmm. It's like, why are we paying somebody else to do this when we could do it ourselves and make way more money and keep it ourselves? And bowls are part of that. Certainly MTEs are definitely part of it. Instead of going and paying $100,000 to go play in the Cayman Islands for 2 games, it's like, why don't we just put it on and do it ourselves? Mm-hmm. Right. So there's a lot of discussion about that too. But as far as the playoff goes, Chad, I mean, if it's a 24 team or even a 28 team thing, you'll see probably at least 7 Big Ten teams in it every year, and which means that if you got a winning record in the Big Ten, I mean, last year 6 would have taken you to Iowa, 7 would have taken you to Michigan, 8 would have taken you to Minnesota,
Yeah.
And, Minnesota and Michigan there were 7 and 5 teams during the regular season.
Yeah, the thing is, like, and we know this in college football, you're not going to win a national title like if you're a 7 and 5 Iowa. You know what I mean? Like, there's only a few teams that can really win the national title. Maybe 6 every year. Mm-hmm. But by the time it all plays out, it's really, it's not like the NCAA basketball tournament where anybody can make a run. It's just not the same. Football is a line of scrimmage game, and if you've got the dudes, you're gonna overpower other teams. We saw that in the frickin' quarterfinals last year, whatever the round of the first games, whatever those were. So. Anyway, that I like the idea. I mean, I'm interested in the idea. It just sounds the timing's weird. Anyway, 2014 playoff coming in 2031 per Scott Dochterman. So, just kidding. Soccer, Iowa women's soccer, Scott. We got to give them one or 2 minutes here, don't we? I mean, top 10 matchup here in Iowa City. They just beat Arkansas, a top 10 team on the road. Congratulations to them. That's really cool. And I know that as an athletic director, Beth Getz she's not one that just cares about football. She does care about all the sports under her watch. And so it's good to see when there's some success there, and it's good to see some momentum for this program. It's just I don't know. You wanted to talk about it and I did too. So what do you got to say there?
Well, first of all, Beth played soccer in college. She was at Clemson. She was a part of the first ever Clemson team and was a starter, and also coached soccer at UMSL in St. Louis. And so that is something that's really close to her heart. I know last year I actually bought a ticket to watch the playoff, the NCAA tournament game. I think they played Missouri State on a Friday night last year, and there was like 2,500 people there. And when they won that game, and I know talking to Beth, she was like, because it was the same day as the game over at the men's basketball game at the Mark, or whatever it's called now in the Quad Cities. And when they played Washington State, Iowa men. And so she couldn't go to the soccer game, and of course that's her baby, her sport. But Dave Delaney, man, he has done an unbelievable job. Because I think he's taken to the tournament 4 times. They didn't have any before he was there. Now they're ranked, one poll 7th, another poll 9th. They're 9th ranked, playing 7th TCU. First ever top 10 matchup in Iowa City ever for women's soccer, and it's a free game, which is awesome. I think they could probably start charging for that. But to go to Arkansas and win, they were number 6 in the country. They hadn't lost at home since 2021, and so this is a program to take notice of, and as women's sports have really elevated. I've said since COVID that it's really kind of changed the map for sports, which is why we saw the huge rise along with Caitlin Clark, but of women's basketball. But women's volleyball is just taken off. It is getting great ratings. It's unfortunate Iowa hasn't been able to catch up, with the greatest league in the country, but then soccer has. And I think that you're seeing this interest for people, for women's sports, and I think it's fantastic, and it's definitely worth paying attention to right now.
Yeah, very, very cool. Man, number 7 ranking. That's the highest in school history for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome, Dave Diani. Appreciate that comment, Scott. Glad we shouted them out, and yeah, go to the game Thursday night, Iowa City. It's or tonight, I guess.
Yeah. Right.
As you hear this, so let's. We've burned 50 minutes here of showtime.
Yeah.
Usually like about a half hour for the NFL talk. We love to talk about the NFL, but man, there are some cool Hawkeyes in the NFL stories going on right now, Scott. You are the best there is at keeping track of all these guys with roster spots, fighting for roster spots. Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson, both undrafted, both really got what are their shots of making them? They've played so well in the preseason. What are their shots of making their rosters?
Really good, I would say. I would say Nick probably has a little bit easier path just because of where he's located. Baltimore has like a really good, they have like 4 guys that normally you just give a pass to. Now Jay is played himself in practice too, to the point of they're like, oh my gosh. I mean, we all saw his week 1 interception in his game there, but in week 2, 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, a quarterback hurry, a forced fumble, and 39 snaps. I mean, what are you doing out there?
That's crazy. NFL. Yeah. I mean, I know it's preseason, but still, these are NFL guys out there.
Yeah, everybody's fighting for the same piece of turf there, and so I think with this is, if, for instance, let's say Baltimore's just like, God, we can't keep you. Somebody else will pick him up yesterday. If he's cut tomorrow, they will retroactively pick him up. He's that good. And it just goes into account, like, why didn't you get drafted? But and then I think Nick is also in that same ballpark because he can play a lot of different things, and he's smart, and all the things we already knew. But I think those 2 in particular have played themselves into potential roster spots. I think Connor Colby has turned out to be a real good story. He's fighting for backup time, but remember, he's a late round draft pick, and
7th round, yep.
Yeah, and he started. In this last preseason game. Now they all, even George Kittle started in this game. So did Brock Purdy. So, there's some,
good for him.
He got in there, he started, and so he's starting to play there. Mason Richmond is playing quite a few snaps at both guard and tackle. So they like his flexibility. I've always thought
he's in Seattle. Yeah.
Yeah. He's with the Seahawks. And I think he's got a chance not only to make the team, he's a guy that if I was to project him in the future, Chad, I would like to see him take snaps. I would like to see him. Yeah. I think, this year, of course, maybe do that on the side. But, and then a couple other guys who recently got signed. Steven Stylianos.
That's crazy.
He had a really good year in the UFL, But, it's kind of like with Dominic Daphne, I think he's still in the NFL. Michael Ojemudia got drafted, got signed on Monday.
Who picked him up? I forgot.
Dallas Cowboys. So, other guys have had tryouts and haven't quite gotten signed. Deontay Craig did last week with the Colts. Beathard's had a couple of tryouts. Most recently, he passed a physical with the Jets, but, they were doing that for the quarterback. And then, I'd say Green Bay is also another place to watch, and we'll take off our Bears hat on this one. But Christian Welch, what a fantastic story he's been. He was undrafted, but he has just consistently made teams because he is one of the best special teams players in the country, or the NFL. Last week, this was his stat line. He started for the Packers, 55 snaps. He had 7 tackles and a pass defense. He had, 1 tackle. I want to say it was, I don't know if it was 3rd down or 4th down, but it was a stop that prevented a first down. It was really a fantastic game. And then, by all accounts, our people at Green Bay, Matt Scheiderman is, they think that this is Lucas Van Ness's year to break out. that they think this is his chance to, and I know. Put my Bears hat back on. I was kind of hoping somebody else would trade for him before that happened, but he is now kind of, because he left Iowa. He still hasn't started a game, since high school. So
crazy.
Yeah, but I think this might be the chance he has to take that next step. But overall, I've got listed here 43 players on rosters right now. Okay. Noah Fant got re-signed. He started the other day for Cincinnati. So you like him, that offense with Jamar Chase and Higgins and T. Higgins and of course Joey Burrow. So, he's the kind of guy who's going to get like 2 targets, 1 catch, 8 yards, and 5 touchdowns, through the course of the season. So he's like your late tight end pickup on the waiver wire in fantasy football.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of fun names out there. Of course, our Bears do have the long snapper and punter combo. Luke Elkin's going to be the long snapper, right, in Chicago?
They're rotating. He's doing.
Okay.
He's doing. I can't remember which one he did the other day. But he and the other guy, they've kind of one's done like field goal snaps and point snaps, and the other one's doing punt snaps. It's hard to say. I think he's got a future in the NFL. Whether it's in Chicago or somewhere else, because it sounded like. When he got signed, he was the number 2 long snapper available. And then the number 1 was from Vanderbilt, and he got drafted like the 6th round or something like that. So then everybody started going after Luke as soon as the draft was over. But he had the Bears had a special weapon with Luke that day. It happened to be the day of Iowa's spring game, so he was with him. Tori was in Iowa City, so
that's funny.
It changed things. But
go ahead.
Yeah, Caleb Johnson's had a nice, came back with a really strong game the other day, 50 yards. Sebastian Castro is making himself, even though he's an undrafted free agent, is making himself a tough cut in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Y.A. Black and Logan Lee look like they're going to make the team with the Steelers. Jack Heflin started the other day, 4 tackles and 34 snaps for the Rams. So there's a lot of guys that are creeping up in there, and Carl Davis is another great story.
That is, I can't believe he's still in the league.
Yeah, he started the NFC Championship game. He's in that expendable category, Chad, where I can already see what's going to happen. He's going to get cut. They're going to sign him to the practice team, and then he's going to keep getting elevated every week like he did last year. But he's in great shape there. And
Brandon Smith's going to make the Jets. I mean, he's turning heads, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He is right on the cusp. He's moved himself to that borderline area, and he's making great catches. Aaron Glenn, the head coach, is talking him up, saying that he's a guy that's really, and he's done what he does in camp. I was kind of hoping. I saw that the Vikings have had some injuries. I was like, I just want to see him play. Because I think he's a great story too.
He sure is.
Remember him back and writing about his glove size and stuff, and
Kelvin Bell found him in Mississippi. Yeah,
I went and visited him at his house.
That's right. Was that a Land of 10 era?
Yes, that was Land of 10. Drove down there. It's about 20 miles south of Memphis there. Yeah. And I went to his county board meeting where he got honored for having a 4.0.
How about that?
Yeah. So it met his parents. They live in this fantastic house out in the country, and his dad owns like a trucking business. His mom's a teacher, and so it'd be great to see him have some success too.
Yeah. Jamari Harris still with the Titans. Is he in the mix, or probably cut?
Probably 3 tackles, 23 snaps. He's a guy that, and this is the good thing about the expansion of practice teams, the 16, is that guys like him that maybe don't have much of a look. Now, granted, Tennessee was not a good team last year. They drafted number 1 for a reason. So maybe he finds a way, or, he's a guy that they keep on the practice team and just continuously take a look at. And that's not a bad thing either. I mean, you're doing all right there. And just kind of going through the rest of the guys. Kayvon Merriweather continues to trug along. He's an undrafted free agent.
Yeah. It seems like almost every one of these guys you're mentioning was either a 7th rounder or undrafted. I mean, it's crazy.
Tyler Goodson scored a touchdown the other day. Sad one was Matt Nelson got signed again to Minnesota and then immediately got hurt. And,
saw that.
He's probably out for the year. So that's probably it you'd think kind of it for him, but
Tristan Wirfs is out for a little bit, right? To start the year. So, but I mean, all these like good stories, but there's also these like top 100 guys in the NFL that are Hawkeyes too. Cooper DeJean, Tristan Wirfs,
George Kittle.
George Kittle. Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, Eric All's still kicking around, right?
He's recovering from an ACL.
Is Lachey going to make it?
That one I don't have a good feel for.
Okay.
I think
Houston.
Now he might be that kind of guy that if he doesn't make it, I would be shocked if he's not on a practice team. Whether it's in Houston or somewhere else, because what
that would be a shame.
Yeah, I think he'll be on a roster. He'll get an NFL paycheck this year. But I think what this is, and he had 33 snaps the other day, and he'll probably play a lot in week 3 where they tend to back off the veterans. What everybody's going to notice is when there's final cutdowns and they have to get to 53, then there's kind of this aftershock, which is, and I always hate this for a lot of the players that are right on the border. Yeah. It's like you just made the roster and you're excited, and then the next day you're cut, and then they bring somebody else in who got cut. And then there's some late day trades and stuff like that. But so the roster is always in flux. But Iowa has a really high percentage of guys that land with teams, that stick. And I mean, I would say out of the 43 that are kind of on rosters now, and not counting like a Matt Nelson, but some of the others, I think all but 5 or 6 will probably get a check this year from an NFL team. And that's pretty impressive. And a lot of starters,
I mean, Riley Moss is starting for the Broncos now, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty sure. Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, 2-star from Ankeny.
Yeah. Paid his first semester at Iowa.
Gray shirt, right?
Yeah. Sam Laporta.
Starting for the Broncos. Sam Laporta, afterthought in that class with, who was it, Miamin and Logan Lee, right? The other tight ends in that class.
Yeah.
And then I've been listening to NFL podcasts, and everyone's raving about Jack Campbell now with the Lions. Like, he's one of their best defensive players now, even though people were blasting him as a rookie, but he's doing just fine. He's doing just fine.
He's doing exactly what we thought he would do.
Yeah.
I thought he would do, which is give him a year or two to catch up to the speed of the game, and he'll be fantastic. And in fact, I was just curious because somebody, NFL reporter threw out there, this trade, and it was Miles Hendrickson or whatever from the Cincinnati Bengals, who's holding out to the Lions. Trey, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Miles was the coach at Western Illinois. I'm sorry. But Trey Hendrickson. Yeah. And he it was like to the Lions for Jack Campbell and a 2nd-round pick. And I mean, I'm like looking at all these Lions fans like, no, we want him back. And I was really kind of like, oh, wow. Because you're talking about an edge rusher who put him on the opposite side from Aiden Hutchinson. It's like, oh, that's pretty. You got a hell of a tandem there. But there's just. If you're an Iowa fan and certainly an Iowa coach, it speaks to your development because if you look at these players who were 4 and 5 stars, I mean Epineza is a 5-star, and he's started some. He's probably going to be more of a rotational guy now in Buffalo with Joey Bosa there, but but to do what they've done and to do what these guys have done, it speaks very highly of the program.
Yeah, one more NFL preseason game to go, and it's not a Big Grove beer in your hand, is it there, Scott? You got the
Easy.
We want to thank them for their sponsorship. Sorry to throw it in so late here, but no Easy Eddie over there for you tonight.
No Easy Eddie, but I'm gonna go out and get one of my neighborhood beers and sit on my deck after we finish recording here, Chad.
Yeah, there you go.
The neighborhood beer is probably one of my favorites that Big Grove has. But we're getting close to Oktoberfest season, and that's where I really get interested here in Big Grove. And I know the 1939 is my favorite, and of course it's named after the Iron Men from 1939 at the University of Iowa. That amber ale really goes down well. And I know a lot of you guys are IPAs, love the Easy Eddie. I dig Easy Eddie too. Citrus Surfer hits the spot. there's all kinds of different the patios and the vibes and the locations throughout Iowa, and Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, where we did our show, Des Moines, and of course the OG in Solon. So, and you experienced it. I've experienced it a lot. The food is fantastic.
Sure is. Jeez. It's so good.
The ambiance, it's a big place. There's lots to do. Big Grove is fantastic, and wherever you go to enjoy it, and definitely enjoy the Easy Eddies, in my case, the neighborhood beer, and of course, once those Oktoberfest blends come out, I won't be able to get enough of them.
Yeah, so I'll give you guys some good NA reviews at some point here. But when I was drinking the Royal Eddy, that was my go-to. It was a little bit higher percentage on the IPA, it's tough to be in Big Grove a little bit as a non-drinker now. But yeah, they are tremendous, and the menu is just so. It's not just like burgers. You can get a lot of different stuff there. Wing. I mean, it's just different genres. I mean, man. Can't wait to go back there. Anyway, just a fun show tonight, man. Anything else we left off the table there?
Not really. I mean, this is the last pre-game week. I mean, next week we're in game mode, and that's going to be really interesting to see how things kind of progress after we get a chance to see a depth chart, after we get a chance to listen to Kirk Ferentz and the players talk about the upcoming game and what they've experienced, and really to kind of eye the rest of college football. So I'm amped for it, Chad. I'm ready for college football. I've always in that. I don't know about you, but when I get to about Memorial Day, I'm kind of like trying not to think college football. I'm trying to think summer, because college football comes, you can't get out of it. Mm-hmm. And then I'm kind of like, put the brakes on. And then now I'm to the point of, let's go, maybe. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, we went to Dollywood this summer, about a month ago, not quite a month ago. And it just reminds me of some of those roller coasters. It's like, okay, you're going up, the anticipation going up on these things. And, that fun ride's coming, but it's going to go so quick, once it gets here. I feel like that's where we are. We're like getting close to the crest here of the big roller coaster, and it's about to start. The fun ride's about to begin, Scott. I can't wait. I'm glad we get to do this together every Thursday during the season. We'll be back next Thursday to preview Iowa-Albany. We'll review maybe a little bit of Week 0 action. Always here in the Channel Seed Studios. You're listening to Chad Leistikow and Scott Dochterman on Iowa Everywhere.